from the June 26th meeting. Need a resolution, need a motion to approve the minutes from last meeting. Peter, thank you. Second. Denise, any edits, changes to the minutes? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Committee reports, we're going to start with the Board Operations Committee. And Carmen's going to kick it off with our plans for the board retreat.
Yeah, we didn't have a board operations committee meeting, obviously, so that's why I get to make this report. Given some of the changes that have occurred in the last month or two, and the fact that we have been talking at length about the purchase of the Gazette building, Jamie and I have talked and thought it would be really nice if we got the board to visit our soon-to-be new property. I think you'll be very impressed, and I think it'll bring to life some of the discussions that we've been talking about. So we had already booked space at the Lighthouse.
Water's Edge.
Water's Edge.
That's a new.
Water's Edge Lighthouse in Glenville, right across the river from Schenectady. We'll keep that. We'll meet there at about 8:30 or 9 o'clock. We'll zero in on the time. Have a little light breakfast. If there is a need for a board meeting, there might be. We may have some money matters to take care of. We could take care of that, and then we'll have maybe a trolley or a bus, maybe an electric bus, available to take us over to the Gazette building. We'll take a tour. It'll probably take us, I don't know, half hour, 45 minutes, maybe more, depending on questions. And I think it'll be really helpful for you to see the building. It's every time we go there, we learn something new and think of another opportunity. So a little change of pace, and that really is going to be a big item for the authority moving forward. Purchasing it is really just a small step. It's, what are we going to do, and what possibilities are there? And I think really your imagination is going to be tested, because it's quite the space. So hopefully you'll enjoy that.
So more of an informal.
Informal, yeah. No less important.
Good.
That's it for me.
All right. Any questions about that? Yep. More to come on it, of course. We'll move on to the Performance Monitoring Committee, and Mike is going to give us the monthly management.
All right, thank you, Jamie. So we just completed our first quarter of the fiscal year, and great news on mortgage recording tax. For the first time in several months, we actually are over budget. We've got to thank Peter and Georgie for shaking down the trees in Saratoga County. They came in with like $670,000 this month from Saratoga County, which is more than double.
Exactly.
So, and a lot of that is due to NPM Silicones. I guess they had a big mortgage refinancing there, and so that's a lot of it.
Right.
So, customer affairs continue to do well, 7% over budget for the month, almost 8% for the year. Rail station revenue as well is doing good, 18% for the month and almost 13% for the year. On the expense side, we have wages here. I want to talk about that a little bit. It is under budget this month, which is great, partially because of a reduction for summer service that's coming on board, and it is actually a shorter month. However, for the quarter anyhow, we're almost $200,000 over budget. And if you project that forward, it will be about $800,000 over budget for the year. So several of us in planning, operations, and finance have been looking at our wage line, and we're just too tight right now. We've increased service, most of it planned with the Purple Line, Glens Falls, etc. But we just feel that our wage line is too tight. I think that we're going to be looking to make a recommendation probably in early fall to increase that budget line. A lot of this revolves around the manpower shortage. We're 50 drivers short, more than a dozen technicians short, and it just complicates things. So there's a lot of moving parts with our wage line. So we do have additional state operating assistance from after our adopted budget in March, so we'll be looking to make a recommendation to use that to fill the gap, so to speak. Workers' comp is 36% under budget due to less claims and no scheduled loss of use awards, which is big. Liability claims are way over budget this month, but we had several claims that we settled this month. I think we're doing like 6 different final settlements. And then parts and tires are 10% under budget for the month, and we're still under budget for the year on that. So overall, I think we're still in a decent budget position, but the main concern going forward, as I mentioned, is the wage line. So I think we need to look at that early this fall. So that concludes my report.
Any questions? Mike?
A lot of good work here behind the scenes on this wage line thing. You remember the first 2 months of the year was over budget by about 3.5%. That was way too high, and that was concerning because if we didn't identify, the reason, it wouldn't be 800,000, it'd be more like 2 million over. We were basically eating any overage that we had projected. So I think after a lot of scrutiny, we're convinced that we probably budgeted it too tight, given all the new things that we were introducing. And don't forget, we have a new contract that layers in, layered in last year and layered in, covering 2 years there too. The overtime is the overtime. Yes, it's higher, but I really think that we just kind of, so many different things that we probably should have given ourselves a little bit more room to maneuver. We want it to be tight, we want it to be accurate. I remember a time when we were always under budget on the wage line. We finally had a board member who said, hang on guys, you just keep going to that, line and just, covering for everything. Why don't you tell us what the wage line really should be? And that's what we're really trying to do. We're trying to get to what should the wage line be. I think we just kind of overshot it a little bit.
Keep an eye on that.
Yep. We have that.
Chris Desney's got to provide us with the performance.
Sure. Do that. Mind if I sit here?
Not at all.
Okay, the June 24th period, this month of course is July. A good month, another good month by most of these metrics. Total ridership is up 17% for the month and 19% year to date. Montgomery County, just kind of slicing that out a little bit, that's flat, that's not really contributing much. I mean, they're steady, they're not decreasing, but it's not really contributing a whole lot to those increases. It's a lot of the rest of the system. Fixed riders up 18% for the month. On-time performance is at 70%, just about 70% of that, 22% late, 8% early. Leading the pack on that actually is Montgomery County and Troy divisions, or Montgomery County routes, which are sort of kind of operated out of Schenectady, but Montgomery County routes and the Troy division kind of lead that, and bottom of the pack in terms of lower on-time performance, it's Albany and Saratoga service. Also, quick comment on the ridership. We've had a couple of days this month already with above 55,000. That's kind of my litmus test on when I see 55,000, I think to myself, oh, it was a good day. We're on track. We're in the right direction. So we've had some good days already this month above 55,000. PMI is not on time, 11.5%. 123 out of 139. I don't know if anybody notices the obvious on this chart. The spike there, that's the rooted question. We've now over the last year plus, it's not just the operators these days. It's maintenance in terms of getting a full head count there, full staffing there. I was talking with Lance this morning about several things that he's either put in place or is getting ready to put in place to try to be creative on how to address this thing. 3 or 4 things that he was discussing, and we can talk about that in more detail either later in this meeting or have a time dedicated to that in a future meeting. It's up to the board. Percent of trips missed, 0.22%. It's about 180 trips, but that's 180 out of almost 84,000 trips. Okay. Scheduled work, a decrease there at 80%, again, related to the maintenance component, does have an effect on our ability to maintain those goals as well. Mean distance between service interruption of 5720, that equates to over 1 million service miles, 1 million and change service miles. Preventable accidents, 18, that's 14 collisions and 14 customer accidents. Non-preventable accidents, also at 18, also at 14 collisions and 4 customer accidents. Percent days not worked, 7.1%. One of the things I shout out to staff a week or two ago when we put this report together. The percent days not worked, we started tracking this because almost like a pandemic of people not coming to work, the internal pandemic of people not coming back to work for various reasons, right? Whether it's approved or unapproved. This number now is back to pre-pandemic levels. So we have challenges, but we can't attribute those challenges to the people that are here not coming back to work. We're down a lot of people, but the ones are here are coming back at a rate. They come to work at the same rate that they were prior to the pandemic. Fixed shuttle complaints, 139. Other complaints, 45. I would like to see those low. Looks like a 2-year low on other complaints. 3.8% on complaints not addressed in 10 days. So good follow-ups and attention to customer inquiries there. Good thing. Website page views at 778,000. That's about 300,000 unique sessions, individual visits, as it were. Like every month, most of that is people looking up routes and schedules. Like the 100, the 85, the 905, those are kind of at the top of the list. Which is interesting because the 905, half that schedule is headway based now anyway. We just show up every X number of minutes. We don't base it on a schedule during certain parts of the day. Star Riders, down 1% compared to this month last year, but up overall year to date 4%. On-time performance at 79%. I looked into it. That's pretty much even between us and our 2 subcontractors, A Plus and Suburban. So it's not like, hey, CDTA is at 100% and A Plus is at 60. We got to focus. They're all pretty much the same. Missed trips in Star at 1551. Customer complaints also down at 34. Reservation calls, 12,000, continue to be quite high. Calls in the queue over 5 minutes at 10%, also a good thing. And applications received, still bouncing around at 2-year highs, thereabouts at 283. Like I like to do sometimes, I go through all these reports, and like I've mentioned in the past, I do print out and read a lot of the comments. I like to, and with a positive note. Here's one from earlier in the month. Compliment a bus driver at 923 southbound bus. It shows excellent customer service, patience with an unruly customer aboard the bus with a fair issue, fair dispute. I would like that driver recognized for their professionalism. So you get those 2 on occasion. And unless there's any questions, that concludes my report.
And will that feedback go to?
Yes.
Yeah.
Can I ask about on the percentage days not worked, and everything seems to be coming down, but the maintenance side is trending upward. Is there a reason for that? Is it like a lot of summer? I don't know.
We still have a few people out on whether comp or disability, long term, so it's every day. But we do anticipate to be able to get one of them back in, so next month we anticipate that to come down.
Cool, thanks.
And as you'd imagine, that compounds our issues, right? Those are heads that are considered employed here. Right, we're talking, the other issue is the people that like are just completely vacant spots, so we need the people that are employed here to come to work consistency as well. So yeah, maintenance is certainly, overall, it's pre-pandemic levels, but maintenance is driving that number right now.
There's the curveball, right? Not so much in maintenance, because the shortage is the shortage. But I joke oftentimes with the union that if all the bus operators who are employed became workers, we would not have to juggle work around as much as we do. I think it's a dream that all of 450 bus operators are gonna come to work here. People are gonna be sick, people have issues, but we still have, in my mind, way too many people who take a day. For whatever the reason, but if they came to work every day, we would not have the issues with, and trip cuts have been minimized this summer. A lot of great work by the operating staff, minimized, but takes a lot of work to minimize that. You're working people way too hard to minimize that. In maintenance, it's a different story. We're short qualified technicians. You all know that story. We're no different. Lance and his team and Dave Williams are coming up with a couple of things I think they're gonna help us. We're gonna probably add a new classification of super tech. You'll be paid more. You'll have to test into it. But we need to be competitive. If you pull your car into wherever you buy your cars and you ask, and they'll tell you, you ask what a super tech is making. It's six figures. So we need to be competitive. So we're going to do that, but you're gonna have to test into it. It's not going to be for someone who can't do that kind of work, but that's the kind of thing that will pay dividends quickly.
Thank you, Chris. Next item on the agenda is the Strategic and Operational Planning Committee. We have an action item today for authorization to proceed with the West facility purchase. We've been talking about this for many months now, as you know, the property in Schenectady. This will be the first of, I'm sure, a whole litany of actions the board will need to take. It authorizes the CEO to go ahead and proceed and get a commitment on behalf of CDTA to purchase the property. Why don't you give us the update on kind of where things stand right now after all the due diligence?
Probably need help here from Chris and Amanda. They've really been nurturing this along. But we are now to a point where we've checked, I think, right, just about every box that we need to check. And there are lots of them. We're a little different than just private sector companies. We have to check lots of, especially on the federal side. And really a lot of the federal boxes that need to be checked, if you don't check them, once you try to do something down the road, that's where you run into trouble. So Chris and Amanda have pretty much cleared the way. I don't think there's any box left. There might be one or two that we've missed, but I think we're ready. We have a willing seller. He emails or texts us regularly. He's ready to go. He met with his board this week or last week. They're anticipating a sale. We've got the appraisals in place. As you know, we can only pay the appraised value, although there's two appraisals. I don't know how that's all gonna work out. I don't really know what negotiation means.
It's not really a negotiation.
It's not really negotiation. The price is
5.5.
5.5 million. I think when you see the property, again, you will be amazed at what we're getting for 5.5 million. We are amazed at what we're getting for 5.5. But as far as the schedule, maybe you two can help me on when this might happen.
Yeah, I mean, as far as, drafting leases for the current owner, as well as maintaining leases for the existing tenants, that's a piece. There's the finance piece in terms of exactly what the instrument is going to be. And we're still percolating on that, as it were, and there may be different requirements depending on which instrument we land on that suits us best. We have spoken to the FTA. As Carmen mentioned, we're in good shape there. They've requested for some information, but they haven't really told us to do anything other than just give us some information.
That's their style, by the way.
Yeah, I mean, 6 months from now, I don't know, but
That's their style.
as of right now, they're happy about it. They haven't asked us for anything, to do anything. Like I said, providing some information. I was talking with Jeremy this morning and he can provide more details. The leases, it's a big binder. And, Jeremy has been in contact with their counsel as well on the lease side, not the purchase agreement side. That's Amanda's handling that. Essentially, they can be reassigned in a relatively straightforward manner. They don't need to be all rewritten from scratch. There may be a couple things in there we want to adjust, but it's not like we have to start from scratch on those. So we're going through the binder, as well as working on a new lease for the existing landlord. Jeremy has spoken to all the tenants. Obviously you can imagine that there's a little bit of concern there, and we've spoken to the tenants and the owners, and literally after we close this, Jeremy put it very well. The only thing you're gonna see from us is maybe a tape measure every once in a while, and and if you have a problem and the heat goes out, we're the ones you need to call. We're not nobody's being asked to be relocated, so that makes life a whole lot simpler because there's a whole bunch of requirements there in terms of relocation. And then when the leases come due, and we can move, shift, terminate, extend, new, whatever we decide to do at that point. So I think that covers.
This brings up an important point that sometimes I think we overlook. When you add in the Gazette lease for an owner, they'll become a tenant. We project that the operating cost, the annual operating costs will be covered. So we will go in there and not have to spend money to keep the building operating. And frankly, you'll see this, there's lots of office space too. We may decide, because there's no urgency for us to move staff there because there's really not a function yet. We may decide to, lease more space. Pray tell, it may become a profit center, like the rail station that our friends in the media don't seem to want to talk about. That is a profit center. Another unusual thing in the public sector. But you'll see the opportunities and possibilities.
It's one of the things that the FTA looked favorably upon as well, because they said, well, you guys are gonna be landlords. And it's like, we're landlords now. Like, oh yeah, and it's fine.
So it's all good. It's an amazing building, and frankly, it was sitting right under our nose. And we just, I don't know, my career, I don't know how many times I've driven past there, I don't work there. Felt, people who've worked there have probably driven by there hundreds of times. Never realized it.
There's a kind of a bird's eye view of the property next to our Schenectady facility, in case you're not familiar with Maxon Road, Schenectady.
Knowing that our chairman has read every page of the appraisal.
Both appraisals.
Both appraisals, I feel very confident in this resolution.
Like I said, it'll get us started. I'll take a motion to approve resolution 22. Peter, thank you. Second, Georgie, thank you. Any questions or concerns about it? I'm sure we'll talk about this a little bit more at the retreat as well. Once we get the tour, you get to see the facility itself and the proximity to our current property. So it's a good move.
I think we should bring a pitching wedge.
Okay.
So that when we say it's a pitching wedge away, we can verify that.
All right, well, somebody will have to put that on the bus. Any questions, comments? Seeing no, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The resolution is approved. Thank you. So we'll move on to the CEO report.
Yeah, I provided an abbreviated report. It really talks about seasonal services. In addition to everything else that we have going on here, we have a much longer list of seasonal services that we now operate. When we assumed operation of Warren County, about half of their service is seasonal service, trolley service. So we're into trolley service way more than we ever have been. Not an issue, just another thing that we're dealing with. Note there too that the 2 mobility hubs are under construction, and they're very short duration, but they'll be sometime after Labor Day. You probably have the first one, and several weeks after have the second. One in Troy, in the Little Italy section. We've had great cooperation from the city of Troy there. They're very anxious to see that happen. And after lots of arm wrestling, it felt like at times, with our friends at the City of Albany and St. Peter's Hospital, we'll construct one on Manning Boulevard, actually South Manning Boulevard, directly adjacent to St. Peter's, which has become a major universal access partner. They're killing it, right? I think those are gonna be 2 great additions. I really wanted to comment on a lot of the things that Mike and Chris talked about. There's a lot of strain in the organization right now because we're doing way more than we ever have. We're spread now across 6 counties. But ridership continues to be up, and we almost glaze over the fact, or gloss over the fact that our ridership is up between 15 and 20%, and it was up almost 20% last year. It was up 15% the year before, and customer revenue is also up. So what makes it interesting or difficult, depends on your perspective. I always look at the glass as half full. The easiest thing for us to do, the easiest thing would be to adjust our service to the head counts that we have in the building today. The difficulty is you have almost record-breaking ridership happening at the same time. A lot of systems don't have that. They have ridership, which is less than what it was before the pandemic, never mind recovery, and employee shortages as we do as well. So we're persevering. We're managing our way through this. It's not a forever. We can't do this forever. At some point, something will have to give. We're hopeful that the employee situation, given all the things that we're working on, will use the word break, maybe lessen, the strain will lessen. But the TDP is moving along, and I think it will provide some insight into maybe some readjustment of services, and that's necessary. But with ridership, daily ridership now pushing 60,000 a day, that's going to be an interesting proposition. So lots of things, lots of strain on the organization, lots of strain on people in this room, people who aren't in this room. But it's getting done, but some days is more difficult than others. But our results continue to be outstanding. So we're unlike other systems. We did apply for System of the Year. Don't understand how we were not considered. I know that we received System of the Year in 2017 from Aptiv. Everything I read, this isn't happening elsewhere. I guess maybe we missed our narrative. That's okay. We know we're the System of the Year regardless. But lots of great work going on to get that done.
Great, thank you, Carm. Next item is board member comments. Anything anybody wants to bring up for the good of the order? Quiz Carm about his vacation.
Learning how to hit a 4-iron.
So we're going to move into an executive session at this time so that the board can discuss the CEO succession planning that's going on right now. So I'll need a motion to go into executive session. Peter, second by Denise. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The time is about 12:30, so we'll go into executive session, clear the room of staff, and we'll come back in when we're done.